The proof of postage was folded into thirds. Not neatly, not carelessly, just enough to fit the shallow drawer beside the kettle, the one that held batteries, rubber bands, and keys that no longer matched any door. It had been there for 8 months. She did not remember placing it there, only discovering it later, twice, and deciding each time not to throw it away yet. The parcel had long since arrived. Nothing was missing, nothing was disputed, nothing required evidence, and yet the small printed slip remained. The drawer itself was a place without category. Not junk, not storage, just accumulation without narrative. Objects that had paused between purpose and disposal. A spare screw, an unopened packet of plasters, a pen that sometimes worked if shaken. Things that were not needed daily, but not unneeded enough to remove. The proof of postage lay among them, weightless but persistent. She found it again on a Tuesday morning while searching for spare batteries. The paper had softened slightly at the folds, the ink had begun to pale, as if retreating from its own clarity. She read the date. 8 months ago, she had posted a parcel. There was no memory attached to it. No event, no milestone, just a transaction and a brief exchange across a counter. And yet the evidence of that ordinary moment had survived longer than many plans she had once considered important. Purpose, she realized, is rarely assigned in advance. Most things begin as incidental. A cup becomes my cup without ceremony. A route becomes the usual way without decision. A phrase becomes how I say things without rehearsal. Meaning accumulates not through intention, but through repetition. And repetition rarely announces itself. The parcel had long been delivered. Whatever it contained had already entered someone else's routine. The proof outlasted the uncertainty it once represented. Proof had outlived purpose. It struck her as quietly ironic that documentation can remain when the moment it documented has dissolved completely. Memories do this too. They persist after the circumstances that created them no longer exist. She turned the slip over, blank. The reverse side offered nothing. No hidden message, no scribbled note, just white space. She wondered how many days in life resemble that. Recorded on one side, blank on the other. We fill one surface with tasks, lists, purchases, obligations. The back remains open, unmarked, unnoticed. There had been days she considered important that now felt distant and indistinct, and days she barely registered that later returned with unexpected weight. Meaning, she noticed, is rarely proportional to attention. Some of the most ordinary moments grow roots long after they pass. Some of the most anticipated moments fade immediately after arrival. The proof of postage did not know which day it belonged to. It simply existed as evidence that a day had happened at all. She placed it on the counter while replacing the batteries. The slip looked smaller outside the drawer. Context had expanded around it. Objects, she thought, shrink when removed from the spaces that justified their presence. Perhaps humans do the same. We appear large within our routines and surprisingly quiet outside them. There is a peculiar discomfort in discarding proof of the mundane. Throwing away documentation for something important feels practical. Throwing away proof of something already resolved feels strangely premature, as if ordinary actions sometimes leave behind a small residue of vigilance. Extraordinary moments announce themselves. Ordinary moments leave quiet paperwork behind. She tried to recall that specific morning. What had she been thinking while standing at the post office counter? Had she been rushed, calm, distracted? Nothing surfaced. The day resisted reconstruction, and that resistance felt strangely honest. Not every day exists to be remembered. Some exist simply to carry us forward without spectacle. The drawer closed with a soft click. She left the slip on the counter. For a moment it became visible. An object without immediate function draws attention briefly, then fades again. Visibility, she realized, is often just a pause between uses, like the proof of postage on the counter. There had been periods in her life when she sought clear purpose in everything. Activities needed justification, time needed productivity, moments needed outcomes. She had measured days by completion. Later, she began measuring them by presence, not what was achieved, but whether she had been there fully, even in the unremarkable. The proof belonged to the era of completion. Its survival belonged to the era of presence. Evening arrived, and the slip was still on the counter. Light shifted across it, shadows lengthened. The ink did not change. Objects do not notice time passing. They are simply present when it has. Humans, in contrast, feel its movement constantly, yet often overlook its quiet deposits. She almost threw it away then. Her hand hovered over the bin, paused, withdrew. Not out of attachment, out of curiosity. Why had this small proof endured when larger documents had been discarded without hesitation? Perhaps because it did not claim importance. It had slipped through decisions precisely by being insignificant. Insignificance, she realized, is sometimes what allows continuity. Later that night, she folded it again and returned it to the drawer. Not to preserve it, not to assign it value, simply because its presence no longer demanded removal. Some things stay not because they matter greatly, but because they do not interrupt. Days accumulated. The paper softened further. The folds deepened. Its existence became less about the parcel and more about the quiet permission it represented. The acceptance that not every moment requires explanation to be valid. A day can be meaningful without being memorable. A life can be purposeful without being dramatic. Ordinary does not mean empty. It often means unnoticed. The drawer became a small archive of continuity. Batteries that fit nothing yet, keys that might belong somewhere, a proof of postage that once recorded a journey. None of them defined her days. All of them had accompanied them. Purpose, she began to suspect, might not always be an assigned role. Sometimes it is simply participation. She opened the drawer again weeks later and finally threw the slip away. No ceremony, no regret. The date had documented did not disappear with it. It had already fulfilled its quiet function to exist long enough to remind her that existence itself had been enough. Which leaves the question hanging, not inside the story, but outside it, with you. When a moment leaves no memory, was it meaningless or simply unobserved? Do our days need milestones to matter, or does living them fully give them weight? If nothing remarkable happened today, was it empty or quietly complete? And when you look back, are you searching for highlights or recognizing the days that simply carried you here?